You know, sometimes the most powerful transformations don't happen in a boardroom or on a stage. They happen right in the chair. A stylist, a great stylist, just doesn't change how someone looks. They change how someone feels about themselves. Tonight's guest has built an entire movement around that idea. That image, identity, and confidence are deeply connected. He spent decades helping people elevate their craft, their mindset, and their purpose. So tonight we're talking transformation, not just in beauty, but in life and legacy. Smoke and Ice begins now.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. I'm your vice. Smoke and ice.
Welcome to Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. This is the podcast where you're not only informed, but entertained. Sit back, relax, and remember, where there's smoke, there's fire. And you can't chill without ice. Now, here are your hosts, Kelly Allen and Wayne McCullers.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. Smoke and ice.
You have now entered into another episode of Smoke and Ice, where smoke meets sophistication and ice meets intensity. I'm Kelly, and tonight I'm hosting solo for a powerful conversation. My guest tonight is an internationally recognized master hairstylist, author, producer, speaker, and transformational coach with more than 3 decades of experience in the beauty, fashion, and personal development industries. Known for his charismatic stage presence and his ability to turn hair into art, he has worked with major beauty brands and appeared on stages across the country as an educator, host, and industry spokesperson. He's also the author of a powerful book, If Hair Could Talk, a thought-provoking work that explores a deeper connection between identity, confidence, and personal transformation through the beauty experience. Beyond the book, he is the founder of Tim Johnson Systems, a premier professional hair care brand, and the creator of the If Hair Could Talk movement, a platform dedicated to helping people turn their gifts into influence, income, and legacy. So tonight we're talking about craft, confidence, entrepreneurship, and the philosophy that drives his work. Please help me welcome to Smoke and Ice, Tim Johnson. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
What you talking about me?
I was talking about you.
Listen, when you was introducing me, I was like, good God, can I take her on the road and introduce me?
Listen, we can make that work. Because, you know, I do my homework. I always want to make sure that I give the pure essence of who I'm in.
You gave it too.
You know, and everything, because people get so surface, which is, okay, he does this, he does that, he does that. But there's so much more to you as a creator, as an inventor of people's existence. You know what I mean? Because you can take a person. I've been so many places where I've sat in a chair and I've given my self to someone else to say, make me beautiful.
Absolutely.
No matter how beautiful a person is on the outside, if you don't feel beautiful because of how you dress, how you look, how your hair looks, it takes something away from you.
It does.
And for them to sit up there and do something subpar, and then you walk out and you're like, and how much did I just pay? And I don't even feel confident.
I could have did that myself.
Right. But you create that confidence. You create everything that people need to just be. And I love that about you. So that's why I had to give you all your flowers now.
The way you did it, the way you were reading it, and the way you were sounding, it was sounding like a breath of fresh air. To be honest with you, I was like, wow, this really sounds like I like that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's you.
like
it's you. So I don't write fluff, guys.
Yeah.
Everything that I say is true.
Yeah.
But it always gives flowers to who I'm interviewing. So I'm so happy that you're here with me.
And I'm happy to be here with you as well. I'm happy to be here with you.
So,
yeah.
All right. So Tim, let's get into it. At the beginning, what first inspired your journey? Like what got you into the beauty industry?
Calamity. And when I say that with all as much just vulnerability as I possibly can, because I was a single parent, raised child, 18 years old. And when I say 18, that's when it really hit me. I was in college at East Carolina. Originally, I cheated on my high school English exam to be able to get into college because I was afraid of failure, and hearing that, everybody was saying, I'm going to A&T, I'm going to North Carolina State University, I'm going to Carolina. All of my friends were, and I was just a talented kid. I was a class clown, but I was a talented kid. I could sing, I did all of that stuff. But I cheated on my high school English exam just to be able to get a 2.0 to be able to get into East Carolina, and they accepted me. And I went and I auditioned as a voice major, and I was a voice major because I was a theater kid. I was a showbiz kid. Mm-hmm. I could do anything from acting, singing, dancing. And when I say dance, I was one of the best dancers at the club. I was show choir, the whole nine. And I was in it was a predominantly white high school. So, of course, you have your, I don't like to say the word token, but that's basically what it is. You're from show business. So, you got that talented black kid that you sung at the assemblies and all of that stuff. So I was that kid. I didn't know how to read music, couldn't read, didn't know music theory. So I failed drastically at East Carolina University, which just really put me into a state of depression because, number one, I didn't know who I was. I was thinking I was going to be this big failure. What am I going to tell my mom? My mother was a corporate giant at IBM and everything. And I'm single parent raised, like I said, only child. And my mother just had these big high hopes, for me, that I was going to, yada, yada, yada. And I just couldn't keep up. And when I say calamity, I was really going through a crisis at that time. And I was very awkward. I was going through late puberty and still, I was still trying to fit in. I started smoking weed and all of this and that and the other. But then somebody asked me to cut their hair, one of my good buddies. And when he asked me to cut his hair, I was like, you think I can cut your hair? I've never cut anybody's hair. And he was broke. And his mom had put a pair of clippers in his bag. And she told him, she said, I'm not paying for any haircuts. So if you are going to get your hair cut, either you're going to have to learn how to cut it, or you have to get somebody else to cut your hair.
Wow. I'm
not paying for any haircuts. So he begged me literally to cut his hair. And I was like, I don't know how to do it. He said, man, it can't be that bad. Just do the line around my head and scoop it out and this and that and the other. And I was like, all right. I'm just, Darren, I don't even know if I was drunk or I don't know what I was, but I did it. Right? You know what I'm saying? And when I did it, I jacked him up. He wore a hat for about a week or two. This dude came back and asked me to cut his hair again. And I was like, wow, either you love misery or you just stupid.
Or you just believe.
You just believe. You believe it in me. God is using you, whatever. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but I cut up. But I would go to the barbershop every week because my grandfather and taught me, because he started me off younger, taking me to the barbershop. So, I had a regular routine of looking sharp, wanted to be sharp. So I would go and observe from a different standpoint. I love to see people in their craft. Like, I love to hear you talk. I'm caught up when you were talking because that is your gift and you just flow so easy with it. So I was just get caught up looking at the barbers while they were cutting. I went back and he asked me to cut his hair again. And I blazed it. And when I blazed it, the next thing you know, my friends would ask me to cut their hair.
Wow.
All of that, the football team, basketball team. And it just blew up.
We all have talents that are natural. And we don't always know what they are. But it took him to say, my mama said she ain't paying for no haircut. So cut my hair. And it took that failure and that you didn't give up and he didn't give up on you for that. That is Absolutely. So amazing. So amazing. Well, so was it at that point that you realized that hairstyling wasn't just a skill, or were you still confused?
What that did is it actually gave me another ounce of popularity. Because from high school, that popularity from singing and acting and stuff like that, some of that keeps you relevant.
Right.
Even through the struggle, because I had a lot of internal struggles going on during that time. But the notoriety of me being able to cut hair, and I was able to sing. I was singing in a band. I could cook. If you ever looked at Drumline, you've seen the boy from New Orleans. He's cooking in his room every the line. Right. That was my room. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I could fry chicken, collard greens, candy yams. I was rolling up homemade biscuits in my dorm room.
Wow.
So I could do all of that. And You got high with smoke. Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want to say.
Well, look, if you got high, you got the munchies. You were hungry. I was selling plates and cutting hair. I mean, I just had a whole operation going on.
Gotcha.
So, but it was that was when my mother, she came and she visited and she saw how people were waiting in line to get a haircut. And this is something that I tapped into. And you said something about is God giving gifts and this and that and the other, right? I didn't get to really know my father until I was 18. I was 18 at that time. And whenever I made a decision, because I got put on academic probation, it was not like I made a decision, I'm going to go to barber school. I literally was put on academic probation because I told you I was failing drastically in music. And I was just discouraged from going to class. My GPA was a 0.83. So you can sign your name and get better than that, So I was a 0.83 GPA. And what wound up happening is I didn't know how I was going to tell my mother that I got put on academic probation. And I had to sit out a semester to get my mind right. So I had come up with this clever idea. I was going to go to barber school. And I couldn't get into barber school. The waiting list was 1.5 years long. And I couldn't get in, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I had one of the guys who ran a salon with his mom and his sister. He was my 8th grade bully. And he was 1 year older than me. He had done hair since he was 14. And he told me, he said, why don't you just go to cosmetology school? I was like, I'm not going to cosmetology school. He said, why? I said, I don't want to do women's hair. He said, and you would do very good. I said, well, number one, they don't make a lot of money. He said, who told you that? I knew nothing about the money, right?
Because we spent some money on the hair.
I knew nothing about the money. So, but I grew up with my mom getting her hair done. I was one of those kids that had to wait in the car or wait in the salon while my mom got her hair done. So, long story short, the way he convinced me, he said, he showed me the money. He had showed me $75,000 in cash that he had saved up. And he's 19, I'm 18. I said, you're selling drugs. Where did you get this money? He said, this is from doing hair, but you don't want to do it. I said, you saved up this much money? He said, yeah, I've been doing hair since I was 14. I said, where do I sign up? I said, but I don't want to do it. I said, it's negative. I don't want people talking about it. He said, what do you mean? I said, I don't want people calling me gay. He said, don't you sing? I said, yeah. He said, you one of the baddest dancers at the club. I said, yeah. He said, and you act, you love theater. I said, yeah. He said, they're already calling you gay. Make the money.
Yes, make the money without having to struggle.
He said they give them something really to talk about.
Right.
And honestly, I did my confidence in doing something that was totally different than I had ever done before. I just could not I didn't know how to tap into that.
Right.
But because he believed in me and he told me, he said, let me tell you something. Because he was doing my mother's hair. He was my mother's hairdresser. And everybody in our neighborhood, he did everyone.
Right.
And he told me, he said, I'll talk to your mother for you. He said, and I will mentor you and coach you while you're in cosmetology school. If you decide to do it. He said, Tim, I believe you're going to make it. And his sister who taught him, she told me, she said, I know you'll be phenomenal if you did it. And they were selling me.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I bought it. It was like, the call to action was, where do I sign up? They were like, now we're going to sign up. So I went and signed up for cosmetology school. My mom cut a check and wrote the whole thing. And my first week out of cosmetology school, I was completely booked. I was 18 years old. This is in 1989. I graduated in 89. And I was making over $60,000 a year in my first year.
In 80, that's...
that was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money in 89.
That's your six figure this year. Right. Right. These days of time. So I was this kid that was this talented kid from the hood, and I could do hair. So that's how I broke in. But when I was going back to that gift that you said is a natural gift, when I met my father, because I brought that conversation up.
Right.
During that time when I was in school and I was in the process of graduating, my mom and I, we took a road trip to Albany, Georgia to visit my father. I hadn't seen him since I was 10. Knew nothing about my dad. When we rode up at the address, we rode up to a barbershop. We pulled up at the barbershop, we walked in. My dad was a barber in the barbershop. My uncle was a barber in the barbershop. They were the top barbers in the community.
Wow.
I never knew that my dad cut hair. And I was like, what? And he asked me to cut his hair. So that was our
bonding moment. Wow. So you were born to do this and didn't even know it. Wow. Well, listen, we're talking about what you were born into. You are known to create art when you do someone's hair. So what does that creativity look like when you meet someone for the first time, when they don't know what they want? They're looking to you to say, make me beautiful. Like, how do you approach that?
It's kind of, that is the sincerest part of what I do, is because I love people who don't know what they should look like, or what I call it image, what their image is. So they're having an image collision at that time. So they're appearing as who they have become, but that is not who either they are, or they are entertaining, I want to know who I should be.
Right.
Or they're saying, help me become what you see me becoming. You know what I'm saying? So whenever I see them, like when I saw you, first time I saw you, first thing I imagined, you mind if I share this?
No, share it, please.
When I first saw you, number one, you permeate light. You just give off rays of light. You give off, and it's not because of these lights that we're under, but you just come across as it's freedom. And a lot of times when women come in, a lot of them are caught up with image confusion. They don't know what they should be looking like or how they feel about themselves. So I have to offer some kind of level of clarity. So we were talking about affirmations earlier today. I have to affirm with myself that I'm always clear. I'm always right where I'm supposed to be, and I always know exactly what to do. So whenever I see a person, the first thing I do, I'm detangling.
Right.
I'm detangling. When I say I'm detangling, I'm not just looking at your hair, and the first thing they assume, because I do hair, is, I know you're looking at my hair.
Right.
I know you're looking at my hair. That's what most women say. I know you're looking at my hair. And I'm like, I just see so much more. I see deeper. And then if their hair is matted or something like that, or if their hair is broken on the edges, or if their hair is weak and is mousy, that is a sign of, number one, either there's something going on that is not balanced. And a lot of times it could be hormonal. A lot of times it could be just in your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And your hair is making that clear to me.
Right.
So my responsibility at that time, with my gift and with my expertise, is to help you in the most comfortable way. I want to make you feel very comfortable. I want to be very empathetic. Okay. Right. I believe that empathy is very important when it comes down to women, especially with dealing with their image and their hair. I want to be able to help you unwind, and let's come to a place of where you are. How do we get here? And this is what it's going to take.
Yeah, because the beauty shop, just like the barber shop, is a place where women. That's our therapy session.
Absolutely.
Even if you're just meeting a hairstylist for the first time, you find that with their hands on your hair and they're doing so much, you just feel so relaxed, and you start to be able to. It's a cathartic moment where you could just start to just unload all of your stresses, all of everything, and then your result comes out of you releasing.
Absolutely.
Because if you're just tight up and don't want to give up, you can walk out of there and you could be okay, but you're not going to have that look that you desire because you didn't completely release.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that you do what you do for women, because you allow them to feel comfortable to just release so that you can just make the masterpiece and make them beautiful. That's so awesome. Well, you've been doing this for over, I don't want to say this because I want to, we young still, y'all. We still young. But like 30 decades in the industry. What still excites you about the industry?
The most exciting thing is relationships.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't exchange nothing for my relationships. You ask me what do I do whenever my client. To be honest with you, my first approach is I want to eye to eye. I want to make sure that we good. You okay? Because women come to the salon like people go to church. When they go to church, first thing they do, we I don't want to play with God because I know it ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You come to the salon. I've been tearing my hair up. The first thing they want to do is just lay their sins down. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. And I'm like, I put my hands on their shoulders and I rest my hands on their shoulders and I look at them right in the mirror. And I'm like, baby, we all right.
Right. Right.
We all right.
Oh my gosh, you make people feel so great.
Yeah, I'm very big on breathing. You talked about meditation in our earlier conversation. I'm a big cheerleader about breathing. One of the major causes of stress is we just don't know. We don't even know when we're not breathing. We don't even know when we're holding our breath. And that's the first thing you do. You should. And I tell them, take a deep breath. Inhale through your nose. Just inhale. Hold and just let that all out. Press your lips together. Just let it all out. Just detox all that. That's it. All right, now let's get rid of all of what you thought you should have been, and let's discover.
We're gonna get into where you're going and who you're supposed to be.
Yes, and how we're gonna get there.
Right.
Yeah. Let's go on to our becoming. Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it can be intimidating. Especially coming to somebody like you. I mean, you were renowned now. Let's not act like you just some average, neighborhood hairstylist. So anyone who gets into your chair, it's glad that you make them feel like they can be comfortable, that it doesn't matter what your name is, who you are, that you're there just for them. Because going to the average person, I've gone in to many places and just felt like, and you feel like you have to have that diarrhea of the mouth. That's what it is. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been doing my hair. I've done this, I've done that. And even in people's natural stages, you do things that's still damaging to your hair,
Absolutely.
and then you know when you're going in someplace that you didn't do everything that you're supposed to do. So you just feel like, I got to lay all my sins out. Like you call them, I got to lay all my sins out. So you don't think that I just came in here thinking I was on point.
Yeah.
And so it's good when someone makes you feel like you're okay to be there and that you're safe with them, and not that anything that they've said makes them judge you in any way.
Absolutely.
Because judgment is the last thing. If I don't feel your energy, I will ask the producer. I will get up and be like, no, we're not doing this today. You're not putting your hands in my hair.
Absolutely.
If you negative, I can't do it.
It's a spiritual
Right.
connection. It's a spiritual moment. Your hair, we outside of doctors, we have the license and the right and the authority to work on your body. Your head is the most. What else is more sensitive other than your central nervous system or your blood? You know what I'm saying?
It's your mind. It's your head and your mind.
That's where you process. All of that is there. And one of the biggest challenges, I'm glad, we're having this conversation. I love talking to you about this too. This is great. You're good at this. But listen, talking to women a lot, I have a lot of very high performing, successful clientele. They're very successful. They're high strong. Some of them are and they're used to being on point. Everything has got to be on point until you can't figure this hair out. And it's actually like you are having a head-on collision with yourself, because you are supposed to have this together. I have clients that have read every book. They know everything. They know every product. They know the chemicals. They know the bonds and the breakdown and all of this. They just don't have a cosmetology degree. And when they come in, after they come in, and I'm like, okay, baby, that's wonderful, but you have no edges.
That's right. That's the first thing that we could. Okay, that's another conversation. We'll get to that in a minute, y'all. We'll get to that in a minute. Yes, no edges.
You have no edges.
No edges, because all them lace fronts.
Yeah, it's not, and that's what you do. That's what they have done to their hair.
Right.
But what about the part that you don't know? You doing everything, crossing every T and dotting every I, and your hair is still not acting right.
Right. Yeah.
There's a hormonal part that you might not know about yourself.
Yeah.
Or there's the part we talk about breathing. You don't know how to deal with stress.
Right. And it's creating all this other stuff.
All this other stuff.
I'm so glad for this widow's peak, because I never could feel like, so I never did I never got into that movement. But
I'm so
it's
glad
okay.
you did. Not with all that hair, you didn't need to.
Well, so wait, we're gonna pause for a second. My hair used to be really thick.
Okay.
But through all of the blowouts and, because I went natural and I was tired of the chemical, I didn't want to do that anymore. And so from the blowout, I noticed that it's getting thinner and thinner. And I don't necessarily see the hair loss, but I just don't see the thickness, because I used to get a blowout, and even though it was straight, it was thick.
Okay.
And people say, oh my gosh, you have so much hair. Okay. And now I get a blowout, and if I put it in a ponytail, I'm like, how many fingers does my, And so it's just like, so I've been trying to focus on my health and my vitamin intake and everything else.
Absolutely.
Getting older and trying, and then I don't like dyes, and so I've just had to embrace my gray.
Absolutely.
Which it is what it is. It doesn't look so gray when it's straight. When it's natural, it looks a little dirty, but that's the gray. It's not dirty, y'all.
It looks good. It looks good.
Thank you. And
it doesn't look dirty.
Not when it's straight. Not when it's straight.
Yeah. It looks almost like a ash blonde.
Right, and that's why when it's
given ash.
When it's straight, it looks like ash brown, but blonde. But when it's natural, it definitely is gray.
Else.
It gives you something else. So this is it. But I try.
Yeah.
But let's get into the book, If Hair Could Talk. So it sparks a powerful conversation to the beauty industry. What inspired you to write this?
Well, I am, I'm a believer, and I'm a born again believer, and I believe my relationship with God is to the point that I take it very serious. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to tap into this real quick. Okay. There's a point in my life right before I wrote this book, I knew that God was inviting me to another stage in my life. You know, we like to go from dimension to dimension. When I say dimension, like I'm becoming another version of myself. Mm-hmm. And what that looked like for me, I wanted to partner with God so I won't miss, my matriculation or my advancing, so that I could, be that person. So I took some time. I changed the way I was eating. I started paying attention to my health. I started paying attention a lot to my time, because I had a whole lot of piggyback riders. I had a whole lot of, people that, that I was carrying. Mm-hmm. I had a whole lot of weight that I was carrying, not just body weight. Things that were not important as I was making them. Mm-hmm. And during this time in my life, my journey was actually being seen by clients and those that were actually, some that were changing. They were showing up in my life at the same time, and they were asking me like wisdom, or people that I was coaching, because I have coaching programs as well. So my responsibility, I had to document what I was doing for myself. Mm-hmm. in regards to self-mastery. And whenever I would look at the things that I was doing and how I was doing it, I knew where I had things that I was taking shortcuts, cheat codes, you know what I'm saying? Discounting the value of really putting in the work, and I did not like how it felt once I got there. Like, I have to be very vulnerable and say, like, today, running in here like I did. Okay, sis, we're gonna deal. Let's go and deal with that. Running here like I did, I don't like looking like that. Mm-hmm. And we all have different seasons in our lives, but there's a season, even during the time I was having massive success as in regards to making money. Mm-hmm. I was making way more than what I had made before. I was still tacky, meaning that I just could not get myself together and, get ahead of the ball. I was, running on that treadmill. I was late all the time. I was late on bills. I was getting cars repossessed. I was late on my, different things like that. But I was still showing up very successful because the popularity is there, and I was not together. Mm-hmm. And so what really encouraged me about the book is when I began to do the work in self-mastery and, and allowing God to really invite me to certain, because I was wanting to partner with him about where he was taking me. And as I started seeing my life where there were doors that, he said he's an open door that no man can shut. Right. And he'll give you doors of opportunities. I was then able to see clearly the doors of opportunity, and I would not sabotage them. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I was able to get invited into rooms that I had always dreamed of. I'm a massive dreamer and goal person, but there were times I would get invited into rooms, and because at this time God was inviting me into rooms and it was blowing my mind, I would deal with like imposter syndrome. Like, am I good enough to be here? Am I supposed to? Have you ever dealt with that before?
I've dealt with it, but I'm excited by everything that you're saying, and this is why. Because everything in life is a lesson.
Absolutely.
And when you were given all of this fame, you had to make adjustments. Like you said, you were late for stuff. You were still late on bills. Although you had success, you had money, you were still trying to figure it out. But once you mastered the ability to make it work, then that's when the doors started opening. Yeah. So it wasn't that you weren't worthy of it. It was the fact that you had to know for yourself that you were worthy. And at the point that you decided that this life that I'm living and everything that I'm doing, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be right. I want to be on time. I want to have all of my affairs in order. Yeah. then those doors started opening up. So you were already had a seat at the table. You already had your invitation.
Yeah.
You just had to show yourself approved
I
to
had
be
come on
sitting
now.
there
Yeah,
at
see
the
that? You see that?
table.
Don't do it.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm like getting hyped. Because I'm like, you just,
But see,
all
the
you
thing
had
about
to
it is
do.
exactly what you're saying, because the thing about it is there are people who were seeing stuff that I could not see.
Right.
When all of this, like you talk about popularity and fame and this and that and the other, they were seeing this stuff. Oh my God, Tim, your shows. I was putting shows together just because I could.
Right.
I would get an idea and I didn't know how to release it. I would write it down and I'm like, okay, let me get these people together. I'm just going to get a date. Let me get a venue. Let me go on to do this. Okay. I'm going to the Bronner Brothers show. I'm like, they say that we want to get people up on the stage and say whatever it was, my gifts was showing up and it will always be ahead of my preparation to be able to handle the moment.
Because it had nothing to do with your gift. It had to do with you acknowledging that you had the gift.
Yes. So you were seeing what I could not see. So so when I wrote this book, what inspired me to write it was I was putting in work. I lost, ever since 2020, I've lost almost 100 pounds, no pills, no surgery, no shots, okay? No fad diets. I went vegan. I was vegan for about 3 or 4 years. And during that time, I was discovering that food, because I had a challenge with food worship. I love some good food. And I didn't know I was worshiping food until have you ever home? Do you home me eat? Yeah. I was like,
start dancing.
Yeah. And I was showing up at the buffets and worship service. So the bottom line is I had to get control over my life. Blood pressure was everywhere. I didn't know anything about health and blood pressure. I didn't know anything about wellness. Wellness became attractive to me when I began to be well. It was not, but then whenever I accepted the invitation of what God was doing, He was inviting me to I kept consuming all this information about it. So if hair could talk, whenever I would have these discussions in the chair with my clients, we would have these conversations about breakthrough. We would have these conversations about, their lives and my life. I would share about my life and we would be crying or we would just have these emotional moments. And then all of a sudden, it would go.
Because you got to let it go.
A lot of the stuff that like people want the magic potion to grow on their hair. Like they want the magic potion to, like you talking about, your hair is
thinning.
And you're calling it the blowout situation. What it is, you just trained your hair to be straight. But really, you're just becoming another version of yourself. So how do you embrace the hair that you got? Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. How do you do that? So if hair could talk, it came from that. And dealing with stylists and barbers, I've trained stylists and barbers all over this country. Okay, I've spoken in front of 22,000 plus people. I used to host the Bronner Brothers show, the biggest hair and fashion show in the world, in Atlanta. And that was a very great experience. That was like 12 years I did that. But working with stylists and designers and people all over the country, a lot of them had some of the similar challenges, and dealing with high-performing influential leaders, not realizing how to tap into their God-given gifts and how to master the moments without self-sabotage and without dealing with that, what we were calling it earlier, that imposter type of thing, showing up and second-guessing yourselves or sitting on your hands or not counting yourself worthy to advance into that.
We'll get back with Tim in just a moment with more great conversation when Smoking Ice continues in a moment. Before we continue tonight's conversation, I want to take a moment to recognize our bourbon partner for this month, Remus Bourbon, crafted by the historic Ross and Squibb Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, part of the renowned MGP family of spirits. Last week on Smoking Ice, we introduced Remus Straight Bourbon, which really represents classic and approachable bourbon profile. That expression leaned towards the sweeter side of the spectrum, welcoming both new and seasoned bourbon drinkers. Well, tonight, we're stepping into something with more depth and complexity, Remus Repeal Reserve. While many bourbons share similar flavor notes, Remus Repeal Reserve stands apart because of its richer blend and higher rye influence, which adds layers of character you can really taste. On the nose, the bourbon opens with deeper aromas, toasted brown sugar, seasoned oak, and warm baking spices like cinnamon and allspice. You'll also pick up subtle fruit notes, hints of poached pear, apple, and cherry, which immediately signals that this bourbon has a broader flavor range than the sweeter profile we experienced last week. Once it hits the palate, the complexity really unfolds. You'll notice caramel and brown sugar at first, and then it transitions into toasted nuts, dark chocolate, and rich oak. The higher rye content begins to show itself with warm, spicy notes, cinnamon, clove, and even a slight red pepper warmth that gives the bourbon a little edge. The mouthfeel is noticeably fuller and more substantial than last week's selection, and the finish lingers longer with layered flavors of vanilla, blackberry, jam, nutty oak, and chocolate-covered espresso bean. So if Remus Straight Bourbon highlights the classic sweetness and smoothness of traditional bourbon, Remus Repeal Reserve showcases what happens when complexity, spice, and age comes together in a more robust expression. We're honored to feature the Remus brand here on Smokin' Ice, and we look forward to exploring more of their bourbons with you throughout the month. And as always, please enjoy responsibly. So I want to thank again the Ross Squibb Distillery and the MGP family of spirits for continuing to give your consumers some really great quality spirits, bourbon in particular, which is my favorite. So we're going to try, this is the Remus Repeal Reserve once again. And so we're going to pour. Alrighty. So any of you who have already tried it, if you have not tried it, please, let's talk about it inside of the comments. And I promise you, these are great products. These are great bourbons, and we're going to try them here together. So cheers. And this is definitely a great bourbon. It is a rise above what we had last week, which is a little bit sweeter. But this one does give that bold flavor. But it's something that whether you have it on the rocks or whether you have it neat, it's something that you really, really, really enjoy. And I hope you enjoy it too. So again, this is the Remus Repeal Reserve. Look for it. If you can't find it where you're at, make sure you let them know you want them to order it so that you can get it, because this one right here, it will pair perfectly with any cigar. And that's what we're going to do right now. This bourbon goes great with today's cigar. This is a Cohiba Nicaraguan cigar, gray label. It has a Colorado Oscuro wrapper, the filler, and the tobacco is Nicaraguan. So it's kind of perfect. It gives you a full, bold-bodied, creamy smoke, but it's handcrafted. And so it really makes it great. So we're going to try this today, and we'll see if I like it and if you like it. And if we disagree, I don't know. But hopefully we both agree. I don't know. Let's do it. So I have to agree. It's not as full-bodied as I thought. It's kind of mild on the palate. It does have a nice flavor, a nice pull. And I think it pairs greatly with the Remus Repeal Reserve. So yeah, it's not badly priced either. It's about at most $25, depending on where you're at. So it's something that I would love for you to try if you haven't tried it. If you have tried it, let me know. Again, the comments are where we can talk together. And I appreciate you just as much as you appreciate me being here, giving you my opinion. So Smokin' Ice continues next.
Hi, I'm Kelly Allen. Join me each weekday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for Midday Energy Rush on Positive365.net. I'll bring you all your favorite music from every genre and every decade, plus comedy and positive thoughts all in one place. Go to Positive365.net and you won't be disappointed. That's Positive365.net, We're positively different.
Positively different. Positive 365.
And we're back. I'm continuing this great conversation with Tim Johnson, and I'm so glad that we're continuing. So we'll get right back into it. We were talking about the book beforehand, and the title alone makes people think deeper about the connection between hair and identity. What message do you want readers to have in reading your book?
First thing first is this. The book, the title is a draw. It's a coffee table stir. That is a title that you could, in a doctor's office. I wanted to sit in a doctor's office. I want that book in a boutique. That's a pass-by book. That's a book title that you're in the airport and you're waiting on your next flight. You go to Borders or the newsstand and you're looking at the top 10 books, and mine is one of the top 10. But yeah,
It's got
you like, and you see how the stir on the front of the cover is like, I wanted to draw you in. If hair could talk, I want people, if hair could talk. And then I wanted to think, if hair could talk, what would it say?
Right.
You know, and then you think about your hair. But the book is absolutely everything that it's not what you thought
What
it
you
would
think,
be.
right.
It's not what you think.
And that's why I segued it that way, because I don't want people to think that it's just about hair. I want them to know from you what they can get out of it. And we discussed some of it.
Absolutely.
We did. We discussed some of it, but I just,
It's a soul stirring journey.
Yeah.
That is, and it's not even about my life. It's about things that I talk about as far as like standards for, self-mastery, even little words in there for the stylist or the struggling stylist or the barber that's dealing with success and burnout, or the person that is an overachiever that just does not know how to, merge to that next lane, being in that place in your life where you're trying to figure it out. I got some great pointers in there. And in the hardback book, I also have what we call activations at the end. I am actually speaking directly, just like I want you to imagine my voice like I'm talking to you. I am actually declaring over your life some very clear declarations. And all you have to say, if that is you, if it fits you, you say, I accept that.
Wow. So because we listen now, we got the softback and the hardback. So if you just want to read it, but if you want those declarations, you gotta get the hardback.
That's special
and
edition.
this is the one I want right here.
And that's yours. I'm signing that for you today.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
that's
you
yours,
so
man.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, you've expanded your brand more than just hair, and we've talked a little bit about your helping people, on coaching. Thank you. I was like, why did that leave me? I'm so excited. But the coaching aspect of it. So there's so many more aspects to your brand. There's so much more to Tim Johnson than just hair and coaching. What's the other facet of what you have here?
Well, hair, from my coaching, my nucleus of my coaching is the RVA method, which stands for recognize, visualize, and actualize. Okay. And I help the high performing influencer or that person who does not know that they are that person that's tapping into where they want to become. I help them to recognize who they are and be able to visualize where they want to. I told you, dreaming and visualization is very, very key to me. And then how to actualize that. And so that's one thing with the book. That's my coaching program. I have my hair product line. I have 14 products in my hair product line, which is the Tim Johnson Systems. And it is a maintenance program, a hair maintenance program. We have the whole system, just like what I would use in a salon. My deep cleansing shampoo, which is a clarifying shampoo, my moisturizing shampoo, my moisturizing conditioning shampoo, my energy conditioner, where you're going to get all the moisture and all of that, and the protein. So I have all of those products, butters, I have creams, I also have shines, and I have a growth oil and a growth serum, and I have hair, skin, and nail vitamins as well. So that's that. I have my production company as well, where I produce and I coordinate some of the largest and some of the most impactful fashion and hair shows in the country. So that right there.
What was the turning point that made you want to go into that to that, because that's a whole nother level of entrepreneurship. Like it's just not just having a salon and, you know, being that person in the community, but you took it and you went to another level. Like how, why?
I didn't let anything hold me back. I told you I was a showbiz kid, so theater and stage was always my thing. I was entertaining myself at 12 and 10 years old as a latchkey kid. I was performing in the middle of the floor. Soul Trade every Saturday at 11 o'clock. I was dancing with Michael Jackson. I knew every choreography, every piece of it. And then when I saw The Wiz and I saw people like Stacey Lattisaw, she was 13. She got discovered. Her dad sent in her demo and she became a star and was on Merv Griffin. And I'm like 12 and 11 at that time. I'm like, she do it and I could do it too. You know, I saw Gary Coleman. You know, I was seeing all the kids that was doing this stuff. And I was like, Mom, you got to take me to these auditions. So I was wearing my mom out, taking me to theater auditions and stuff like that. And then it blew up. I went to a Bronner Brothers show in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is when I first started doing hair. Never did I know that in the hair industry that they had expos and trade shows for hairstylists. My mentor said it's imperative that you go to hair shows because it's going to set you on fire.
Right.
And it's going to change how you're going to be when you get in the salon. And he was spot on with that. When I saw stylists on stage, they call them platform artists. And they would perform hairstyles on stage. And I
in
would
front
see
of everybody.
In front of thousands of people. And at the Bronner Brothers show, all of these people are theatrical. They club kids and all of this. And everybody was in the art form of hair, different color hair stand up this way. On competitions, they're giving away thousands of dollars and people doing speed battle competitions. And the host is making you feel like you're in Vegas and all of that. And then turn around, I was like, wow, one day I'm going to be on that stage. Never did I. Yes, I did. I can't say I didn't think that because I believed that.
Right.
And what happened was in 2000, I got offered an opportunity to go to Alabama, and they were doing some kind of, it was a vacation. Bronner Brothers owned a resort during that time. Mm-hmm. So it was a getaway, but it was a workshop where you could actually go and get some training for platform artistry. And they invited me, and I went, and just so happened to be the Darryl Bronner, the late Darryl Bronner, which is one of the Bronner brothers. He's deceased now, and the executive vice president for marketing were there. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to pitch, one of the projects. It was my turn to get on stage, and I'm just a church boy. And one thing you might not know, I'm a church boy. I love some good old praise and worship. I led praise and worship in church, so I was always motivated and excited, and I know how to set people on fire. And I didn't know that I had a gift in it. I just loved doing it. Until people would come and say, wow, my life has changed because of something you said or how you made me feel. And they were like, look, your whole life is about to blow up. And I'm like, wow, what are you talking about? They met with me after my presentation. It was like, we want you to go on tour with the company. And we just want you to be the voice of Bronner Brothers. And I was like, what? They were like, we want you to host the tour with the hair product, which is called New Expressions at that time, and the BB product that you heard of. And I was, every other weekend, I was in a different state. They flew me out to work with the product. I was training stylists and barbers on the product. And then turn around at the big hair show, the one that blew my mind, I was on this global stage hosting the whole show, just like the whole ringleader for the whole Bronner Brothers show. And I did that for like 12 years and I toured with them. So it opened up the door for other companies, like everybody who saw you at the Bronner Brothers show, Mazzani, L'Oreal, all of these other top hair companies, Paul Mitchell, all of them, they came to the show because the black hair care industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yes.
So they wanted to know how this black family has this company that can draw people from all over the globe.
Right.
So I'm the voice at this show. I'm just a boy from Raleigh, North Carolina, with a poor 8.3 GPA, you know what I'm saying? Showbiz kid. And a lot of people that's my story, is that I just stepped into a place of opportunity and it just took off from there. And then next thing you know, Mazzani was offering me contracts. L'Oreal offered me a contract. Kiss Red Pro offered me a contract. I was offered opportunities. I did Korea, I was in Canada. I was just given these doors, and when I would go in and do things, and I wasn't getting paid a lot in the very beginning because it's show business.
Right, right.
I didn't even know what I was supposed to be getting paid.
Yeah, if you don't know scale, then it's just like, okay, I'm getting
You
paid.
said it, baby. I didn't know. I didn't even
scale.
know. I didn't know what I thought someone was on me and it was the microphone.
Oh.
Listen, I didn't know what I was supposed to be getting paid, and
Right.
I didn't know if I should ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you a story if you want to hear.
Yeah.
Or
Listen, why not?
So, the regional vice president, the late Jerry Dingle, he was like my mentor, but he was a stern, like, ex-sergeant type of thing. And he didn't care nothing about your feelings. It was just all about the bottom line, that dollar, right? And I remember I was in Cleveland at this one show, right? And I was traveling all the time. And it was to the point that my wife was like, oh, wow, you gotta go again. And I'm like, babe, it's blowing up. But she knew I wasn't really bringing any money.
Mm-hmm.
And like talking about when I say no money, it was like I was like making $100, $200, $300 sometimes a show.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you needed me as your,
Ah!
because I don't play that.
But listen, this is where it shifted. I approached Jerry. We called us down for breakfast before we had the show. And I'm meeting with him. And I said, I'm glad we had breakfast. I said, I'm going to ask you a question, Mr. Dillon. I said, about the pay, is there any way I can, make more, get more, country?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know how I should ask. He was like, I'm so glad you asked me that. I was like, okay, thinking things are going to shift. And he's just like, what we're going to do? He said, you about to be the stupidest, dumbest trigger I have ever seen in my life. I said, Mr. Ding, why are you saying that? He said, let me tell you why. Where else in the world would someone give you a global freelance opportunity to be platformed in front of people from all other nations? And we endorse you. You think you're endorsing us. We're endorsing you more than we're endorsing us. And you have no contract binding you to us with a non-compete. You're able as a freelancer to create and go as high as you want to go. And we're endorsing you. So you want me to put you on a payroll and own you?
He just opened the door for everything else that you want to do.
Baby, he opened the door. But I didn't know that the door, I didn't know what the title on the door was.
Right.
I didn't understand the door. A lot of times we're in spaces and places in our lives and we don't know how to seize the opportunity. And he said, now, you have the opportunity, you can make videos. You have the opportunity, you can write a book. You have the opportunity, you can create anything. And we will endorse it because we put you on the platform.
Wow.
And we're not even asking for a dime of it.
And see, and the reason why, and this has been in my head and it just keeps going and going and
Come on,
going.
let it go.
And it's because you saw your journey with the 0.83 and who you were, the country boy from North Carolina. But they saw your purpose. And not even they. God gave you your purpose.
Come on now. And listen, I could not see what I was becoming because I was caught up in what I thought I wasn't getting.
Right. What you weren't getting and who you thought you were.
And I thought I was.
And you weren't that.
And I wasn't that. Mm-hmm. And guess what? While I was gone, home was always calling me. When I say calling me, what I was doing. Now, I love what I do at the church. I love what I was doing at the church.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was not understood. Everybody, just because, it's good in that moment, people can get used to how you do what you do. But if God is opening up a door and he's saying, go in and seize and take advantage of this, that I'm opening up this to you. And I'm making this clear to you. Everybody doesn't see what you're supposed to be seeing at that time. And that's what the book is about. Okay, how am I say I'm clear I have to make those declarations now because I remember when I wasn't clear.
Right.
I remember whenever I wasn't clear. I remember when it was right there in my lap and I wasn't clear. How many times have we had opportunities sitting in our lap and we just we destroyed it. We were not able to honor it.
Fear let us not step into
it. Come on, for fear. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happened. And when he just shook the world for me. And when he shook that world for me, and it was a come to Jesus moment, I looked at him and I said, I see now.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I know you do.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I need you to do it. He said, I need you to do it. That man believed in me so much. And when I say he believed in me so much, whenever I finally started opening up and other companies were reaching out to me, I didn't know how, I thought I was leaving him or leaving the company. He was like, it's time. It's time. And that, what I was dealing with $200 to $300, it became $2,500 10-minute contracts for 10 minutes to make an appearance. But Pantene Relax and Natural, every time I opened up my mouth for 10 minutes, I did Comcast Delaware. I was doing the news. I was making appearances as their trend release artist, just talking to working women of color and how to work out and keep your hair together. They would write the scripts and all that for me. And I would go into schools and just demonstrate with the product and set them on fire and talk about how you can have a 6-figure year coming out of school, and they would pay for it. They would fly me in private jets, and I was scared. I was in a propeller.
Prop jet.
What's that plane? The one with the
prop jet.
Yeah, prop jet. I was blind. Going from here to Wilmington. They flew me from Raleigh to Wilmington one time.
Yeah, because some airports can't handle these bigger airplanes. You got to get in a prop jet.
You got me a driver drove me from Raleigh to Wilmington. That's an 1.5-hour trip, But these are things that God was allowing me to see, that the value that He had placed in me and the gifts that He had placed in me was worth me, cultivating and stirring up and paying attention to it. So. Right.
I appreciate that so much. So let's go into your If Hair Could Talk movement, because that's a whole different thing. Yeah, that goes beyond just the book and what you feel, but now you're creating a movement for other people, because now you're telling other people, don't just read it, be it. Yeah. So how did you come up with that to bring this into action even faster?
I'm glad you asked that. From doing the product launches and working with all the chemists and going into the schools, I knew that my passion was actually talking to a lot of people that are entry level coming into the industry. I have seen the industry change. I've seen the beauty and the hair industry switch from really care and concern about hair, and then I've seen it where the stylists they didn't know anything about how to take care of themselves. More or less, you get these kids that just become popular right now with social media. They become popular instantly overnight. They're doing transformations, or they can do an install or something like that, or do a cut, and they just have immediate success. Back in our day, you knew about a stylist because everybody was going. You had to really work. But right now, you can just get a viral video, and then next thing you know, you can say, I'm gonna be in Texas tomorrow, and you're booked. You know. So I wanted to, I did a tour that I used to do whenever I was working with the companies. They would always send me into the schools, and I knew that I really felt like I was fulfilling something, a God-given gift by pouring into the students. And I kept that going on even after the contract, and I called it the Tim Johnson Give Back Tour. And my Tim Johnson Give Back Tour, I just turned it into the If Hair Could Talk movement. So I have invitations from cosmetology and barber schools where I go into these schools and I teach them my 6-figure, 6-month challenge. And that is how which encourages them and motivates them and drives them to get out of school. Because in cosmetology and barber school, you ever heard of the beauty school dropout?
Yes.
It's called the beauty school dropout is because they get discouraged. Yeah, beauty school dropout, where they just feel like, because you can actually prolong a 1-year school
into forever,
into 4 years and 5 years, and you just never finish. So my whole thing is, if I show you the money and if I show you the strategy, if I can set you on fire, if I can get you to see yourself in that light, we get you out, which causes the retention for the school, for the students. They retain their students, so they don't get their federal funding challenged because
they have
they make them stay. They're motivated to stay and to complete.
Right.
So that has been a massive success. And what winds up happening, a lot of our testimonies, the students, their lives are changed. In the school, they're always inviting me in.
Yeah, because with anything that you're doing, there's a fear. Even if you've mastered everything, you got hundreds on every test. You pass this, you pass that. But when you think of having to go and have someone who you don't know sit in your chair, because all this time, my sister-in-law, she is an instructor at Aveda.
Oh, wow.
And so she's been doing hair forever. She, went to college first, and then she came out and she went into this program, and now she's an instructor. And, it was always a question I never asked her, but your first time having someone sit in there and that person's, you've got their head in your hands and you're doing something they're asking you to do. And there's a lot of pressure to make sure you give them exactly what it is that you want. So how do you give that encouragement, or is that just something that has to be within that person?
No, you need mentoring.
Okay.
The biggest challenge is that first challenge is who's walking with you through that.
Gotcha.
I don't recommend anybody coming out of cosmetology or barber school without a mentor.
Gotcha.
Number one, you need to have that while you're in school. And one of the main challenges that people have, that big insecurity, is because no one walked you through that coaching of confidence. What is it? You need to have your hands in somebody's hair while you're in cosmetology school. You need to let somebody, this is what damaged hair feels like. This is what damaged scalp looks like. This is what, perimenopausal hair looks like. This is what healthy hair looks like. This is what hair feels like when someone is on drugs.
And it's not taking away from the client. It's just educating.
No, for you to, because I don't know if I moved off of your question, but
no, not at all.
Okay, well, you got to make sure that you got to have a good mentor and a good coach, so that fear of you touching that, because that fear is not going to come whenever you're on your first paying client.
Right.
That's what cosmetology school does for you, because you get on that clinic floor. They throw you on the clinic floor, and those people sign that contract that gives you permission to let these students work on you. And what you get, if your hair comes out green, you signed and you agreed it. You agreed to it. I'm telling you, if it melts off, you signed it. They're not held responsible. Oh wow. But it helps the student. And the fear of being perfect, because practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So you have to perfect the perfect way of doing it. So you got to get it right. And then you just keep washing and rinsing and repeating that right.
Right.
And then you become.
I thank you for saying that, because I was looking up something. I was like, I can go there and get this and this done for this. And not that I want to take away from it, because if you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. Yeah. But I almost went to one time to say, I'm gonna just go here and get all this stuff done.
And think about it like this too. You go to a stylist, and my buddy was telling me earlier today about, he saw something on social media about this woman went into a salon, and I think it was a joke video, but she went into a salon to get her hair done, and she sat in someone's chair, and whenever she sat in someone's chair, they quoted the price. They said $500, right? And she was like, okay. And she looked over and saw the other person, and she was like, how much is theirs? They were like, $200. So she went over there and sat in that person's chair, but then she turned around and saw what her hair looked like for $200.
Right.
And then ran back over there to the other chair for $500. So what are you going to do? You're going to pay, let's look at $700. You might as well just stayed over there and got it right the first time.
Exactly.
So you pay for quality. You said the word earlier, scale. You pay, it's levels to this game.
Yeah, it is. Definitely it is. And and the thing is, we look at what we want, and sometimes the pocket just don't add up. So then you're trying to figure out how you can get what you want or whatever.
We shopping, baby. We
shopping.
Yeah.
We're shopping.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm a firm believer in whatever I want of quality, I'd rather get it done once or have it once. So that just doesn't have to do with hair. It has to do with clothing. It has to do with anything that I get.
A good restaurant.
Yeah. Because if you go, or if you buy and you experience, or you have and it falls apart, you have to buy it again. You got to go again, and you're spending double. Like you just said, you spent $700 because it was 2 over there and now 5 over here to fix it, instead of just paying that initial investment. And so I always feel like any investment that I want to make, I plan for it. And it's all about planning. How you feel, how you want to be is planning. So if I want to feel this way and I want to look this way and I want to keep it up, I've got to plan for it to be done, and I got to plan for the upkeep. What does that look like for me? And we're just going to have to go through that process. And so that's That's where we're at. And a lot of people don't understand that. You know, you get some people that will put the initial investment down, but don't know what it takes to keep it up. And then they're like, well, my hair didn't, cause you need to be there at least 2 to 3 weeks every time to keep that upkeep. You know, we got all these things, the micro beads, the eye tips, the K tips, the all this other stuff.
Real good.
But what you don't understand is that, especially with those K tips, you can't just half step that. And it's inexpensive. You got to keep it up. You got to think about it before you do it.
That's been our hot shop. My clients are begging me to do it. I can get $3,500 to $5,000 doing it. The bottom line of the whole situation is this: are you going to keep it up?
That part. You have to. Because if you can't, then this conversation, we need to look into something else that you can actually manage.
Period.
Whether it be the micro beads with the weft.
Absolutely.
Where it's still versatile, but it's better upkeep. Something that you can do. You can still be beautiful, but let's figure out what works for you. And that's why I love you so much, because you're not going to just put somebody in the chair and say, well, this is what I want, and give it to them. We're going to have that come to Jesus moment to say, you don't have the time.
You ain't got the life for that, baby.
You ain't got the life for it. Or do you not have the finances? And it's not no jab to your financial situation. But if you can't, you're going to look crazy, and you don't want to look that way.
You're going to look crazy after it's done, and what you left with,
right?
Because you didn't know the buy-in,
right?
You got it, and it looked great. You walking out of the door, but what is the buy-in?
Right?
How much is the commitment? What is this going to do to my hair? And I'm not saying that all of those things are damaging, but there's so many different variables when it comes down.
Anything can be damaging if you don't know how to take care of it.
Come on. Period. That's it.
So, and I love it, and it goes into, and if for any people who are not out there, that hair people, if you buy a car, any foreign car, Mercedes, BMW. Look at the maintenance. You always want to look at the maintenance before you buy a vehicle. And that might be easier for some people than hair, because hair is not important to everybody. But if you buy a vehicle, what does it cost for the upkeep for that vehicle? I had a Mercedes. I knew what my oil change cost. I knew what fixing it cost before I bought it. And that's why I bought it, because I knew I could afford it at the time. But it can get crazy, and people don't understand that, you know. And then at some certain point, you got to say, you know, I'm ready to downgrade because I'm tired of that bill. And then you just go to something different.
Look, I just
did. I'm not being funny. I downgraded.
I jumped out of that league, baby. I jumped out of that league. But let me tell you something. You got to evaluate the value, and you got to evaluate the responsibility.
That part.
You know.
That part.
Yeah.
All right. So my producer is screaming at me over here, telling me that I'm almost going over. But we will definitely have Tim Johnson back, because there's so much more that we did not get into, and we will certainly get into. But before we go, if anybody, now I know his schedule is tight, but if anybody wants to look up at least even your information, any places that you're going to be to speak, if they can't get in the chair, how can they reach you?
Well, everything is Tim Johnson International. It's TimJohnsonInternational.com. Tim Johnson International on Instagram, on all platforms, on TikTok, on social media. Tim Johnson. You might see me on Tim Johnson Live as well. Okay, and I would love for you to get the book If Hair Could Talk. Even if you're on my social media platform, click the link on there. If Hair Could Talk. If you're interested in any kind of booking engagements, if you want any coaching or anything like that, or any speaking engagements. Did I say speaking? Did I just repeat that?
No, I said speaking engagements, but you didn't repeat it, but that's okay. Speaking engagements.
Yeah, speaking engagements. Yeah, speaking engagements. I'm all for that. Hosting, emceeing. Yeah, that's all in my wheelhouse, and I really appreciate you so much. For
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
I appreciate you for being here. Yeah. But I'm gonna show it again, guys. If Hair Could Talk, please get it, because this one right here will give you some gems that you need in your life, regardless of what it is that you want to do, because any good information is always great information to have. But Tim, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for your philosophy. Thank you again for the gems that you have given.
Thank you.
Your story reminds us that transformation goes beyond appearance.
It does.
It starts from the inside, and you help all of your clients recognize that. And I thank you for that, because that makes me so happy. So conversations like this remind us that the gifts that we have been given can grow into something much bigger than we've ever imagined. To everyone watching and listening, thank you for spending this time with us here on Smoke and Ice. And until next time, I'm Kelly Allen.
I'm Tim Johnson.
Let's spark something real.
Smoke and ice, twice as nice. I'm your vice. Smoke and ice.
We hope you've enjoyed Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Tell a friend so they too can be informed and entertained. For more information about the show, go to smokeandice.net.